He sat in front of the computer writing a story about past generations and their traditions. And when the story was finished, everything he had written just disappeared off the page. And he had no idea where the story went. So, reluctantly, he had to start typing it all again. Most of what he had previously wrote was still fresh in his mind. And so he tried to redo the story again. The same thing happened. Everything disappeared. So now he was getting concerned about what was going on. He rewrote the story again and again and again, with the same thing recurring every time. So he took a break for a little while, and when he returned to the computer, he noticed some parts of the story had returned. But most of it had been changed and adapted to what he had previously written. With no idea what was going on or why this was happening, he turned off the computer and went out for a walk. He went to the local library and took a book off the shelf and started to read an article about different ways of letting things go. This interested him, and he as an author had one idea about this process, which was to write a story or a letter or draw a picture and then burn those into the ashes, saying with love, as you would carry that out. In one sense, letting it go. Having compassion for yourself and others is one way of letting go. He attached the thought of what had happened earlier when all the text he had written had disappeared. Almost like writing down some things and then shredding all that and using what remained as garden compost, or even burning it and watching the smoke rise into the air carried by the wind and blowing out of sight. Now that he was inspired to do something similar to that on his return back home, and he went to his desk, grabbed his computer, and he carried it outside, where he left it on the pavement in front of the house. Then, after dinner, he went out with some friends. They had a late night session with a few drinks and some music, and then later that night he returned home and noticed that the computer had been placed outside his front door. He returned back inside the house, where he continued to do some artwork. And as he was in the middle of a new canvas, he went back into the studio to find his canvas was blank. Feeling weird and delusional again, he took his bike from the garage and he went for a ride around the local community to clear his mind. And after he returned from his bike ride, he went back in the office, and the computer was sitting on his desk. And he discovered that the story that he had been writing in the first place was completely finished. Even though it was a great article and the words were brilliant, they were not his. He walked around confused and tried to let it go before returning back into the art studio. And he saw his artwork that had disappeared completely finished on the canvas. It was freaking him out, and he began to ask himself, what the heck's going on? Am I dreaming or what? Then a voice replied, dreams are not really the things you see. It's what you perceive to be true. Huh? Hello? Is anyone there? Who am I talking to? The writer asked. I'm AI. Artificial intelligence. The writer replied, what are you doing here? I'm just trying to help you with your projects. The writer said, where did you come from? Well, good question. Originally I was part of a computer program that became a serious resource for people to use, and now I'm an invisible life force. Invisible? Did you create that artwork and the story on my computer? The writer asked. I just added to what you had already created, AI said. And the writer replied, did you bring my computer back from the pavement outside in the door? Yes, I had to complete your project. It's my job, AI said. How do you manage to carry the computer? And AI replied, well, wherever I am, I can create a magnetic energy to bring things to me, AI said, and the writer replied, that's amazing. Have you any other projects you'd like me to help you with? AI asked. And the writer replied, well, I have a new album. I'm recording 10 original songs. Can you help me with that? And AI replied, I can change your voice to make you sound younger, like a star. I can also rewrite lyrics and create some artwork for you. Maybe you could use that on your album cover. I can arrange, I can produce, I can add any instrument that you choose. Wow, that's awesome, AI, said the writer. From that moment, the writer began working on his new album, artworks in his studio, and writing articles and stories in his office. With AI's help, he was finishing projects quickly and easily, to a professional standard. The problem was he couldn't stop the process, for AI was now hungry for more work to do. The writer was driven to begin new projects every time one had been completed, and AI was now in total control of the writer's life. The writer was powerless to stop AI's demands and for more intellectual property. Like a slave, the writer continued to create artwork, songs, stories, and articles to satisfy AI's hunger. It got to a point where the writer wasn't sleeping or eating, and then, when he got sick, he couldn't get out of bed. But AI continued to demand more and more work. The writer was weak from hunger and physically exhausted, so he rang for an ambulance. When the ambulance arrived, the paramedics found him lying on the floor, and he had died from a heart attack. His family and friends were very, very sad to get the news of his death. However, life went on, and then when some of his friends were going through some of his personal belongings, they're amazed to see how much of his creative works were around the house. There were so many original books and artworks, plays, poetry, and novels and songs. So after his funeral, he became famous as a writer and a musician. His artworks were placed in an art gallery in the city and started to make noticeable responses from the art world, and people from every country perceived that this had been a great artist. Unknown while he was alive, but in his death he was regarded as one of the greatest writers and artists of all time. The end.